The story begins where the world vanished before my eyes. My favorite game, the one I'd spent thousands of hours on, shut down its servers forever. I just stood there, staring at the black screen, feeling an emptiness only a true gamer understands. I needed something more, something that would really test me, that would push me to the limit. So I started searching the deepest corners of the internet until I found a title that promised to have no end. My curiosity was piqued. Without a second thought, I chose the highest difficulty, Hell Mode, and to top it off, I selected the hardest class to master, the Summoner. The moment I hit play, the monitor didn't show a loading screen. Instead, I felt a violent suction, my body dissolved into data and was absorbed by the machine. When I woke up, I wasn't a hero in armor, I was a newborn baby. I've been reincarnated as Alan. My father, Rudin, a rough but kind-hearted man, couldn't stop smiling when he saw me. My mother, Theresia, looked at me with a tenderness I never knew in my other life. We are a family of poor farmers in a rural village, living under a feudal lord, but there is no shortage of love. My parents are only 20, so I'll probably have siblings soon. I like the idea of a big family, although my current reality is farming land and paying taxes. One night, while silence reigned in the house, I decided to try my luck. I remembered the classic isekai tropes and whispered, "Open status window." A modern holographic menu didn't appear. Instead, an ancient grimoire materialized out of nowhere. I got the scare of my life. I heard footsteps and slammed the book shut, pretending to be fast asleep before my parents entered the room. When I was sure they weren't watching me, I summoned the book again. The first page was depressing. My stats were in the lowest possible range. Normal for a baby, I guess, but on the next page was my summoning ability. I could summon H-rank creatures, insects and beasts. Suddenly, the book glowed and the pages turned by themselves. A message appeared from Elmia, the creator of this world, saying the summoner class was still in beta testing and apologizing for any inconvenience. Seriously, a beta world? I thought, but didn't care. I tried using the enchantment to summon an insect 1, 2, 10 times. Nothing. Maybe I need to create the card first, I reasoned. I visualized an H-rank insect card and it worked, but just as I was about to materialize it, I heard Teresa approaching. Back to faking it. I really fell asleep that time. The next morning, with my father chopping wood and my mother washing clothes outside, I saw my chance. I recited the spell and the room filled with luminous spiritual spheres. It was beautiful, but I had to be quick. The lights condensed and suddenly, a cat-sized grasshopper appeared before me with an unfriendly face. "Come here," I ordered with my half-developed baby voice. The bug ignored me completely and looked away. Is it dumb or what? I wondered. I checked the grimoire for any missing requirements and opened its status menu. I named it Dina. As I did, I felt a change. That little insect gave me a +1 bonus to resistance and agility. Incredible. I blurted out, "Bad idea." Teresa came running in. She saw the giant bug and with a scream of disgust, she stomped on it, instantly disintegrating it. I didn't give up. I kept practicing in secret whenever I could. Days later, I decided to try a beast. A white rat emerged from the light. Like Dina, it seemed to not have a single working neuron, but at least it was a start. I named it Mousy. Upon checking its statistics, I discovered it had a special skill called Elusive. I managed to activate the ability and suddenly, Mousy started running at full speed around me like a white blur. It got me thinking, if a simple H-rank rat can do this, what kind of legendary monsters will I control in the future? For now, my limit is 10 cards, so I wasted no time and created 10 copies of Mousy. Instantly, I felt a rush of adrenaline. My attack stats went up thanks to the accumulated buffs from the rat. With that strength boost, even at just 1 year old, I could move logs and help with firewood. But it wasn't enough. There were times when, sweaty and exhausted, I regretted choosing Hell Mode. How much easier would it have been on normal difficulty? One day my father came home covered in myoglobin and blood. Theresia got scared thinking he was hurt, but he laughed. He had been on a wild boar hunt. He proudly looked at me and asked if I wanted to see the prey. I nodded excitedly and he carried me on his shoulders to the town square. On the way I saw a flock of aleros, birds so massive they look like dinosaurs. "Those are real monsters, Alan," Dad told me. "I named you after them. I want you to be free, flying through this world with nothing stopping you." I fell asleep in his arms as we walked, but he woke me up when we arrived. In front of me was the great boar. Touching its rough skin, I felt a chill. It was immense. I seriously doubted if I would ever be able to defeat such a beast. Jeta, one of our neighbors, came to cheer on my father. The whole town treated him like a hero. Not everyone can take down a beast that size. Jeta noticed my black hair and eyes, and when I waved back, he almost fell from the shock. He couldn't believe a 1-year-old could speak so clearly. He told me I was growing much faster than his daughter, Kreda, who is my age. I asked about the boar and Jeta explained it was a C-rank monster. That helped me understand the huge gap I still have to climb. 10 months flew by. I am 1 year and 10 months old. I've been polishing my skills and finally unlocked G-rank summons. I even discovered I can fuse H and G-rank cards to create something new. I tried my new power, but a notification popped up, low MP. I thought maybe it was hunger, so I ran to the table and devoured a giant plate of food under my parents' worried gaze. I returned to my room, hoping the mana had recharged with the food, but nothing. No fusions, no new cards, low MP over and over again. I had to give up for the moment. 3 years later, having just turned 5, my body and my mana resistance finally matured enough. I took a rank G card and a rank H card and fused them. The glow was different this time, it worked. I summoned my first rank G bird, a bird I named Chappie. Its agility and strength stats were level 2, but the best thing was its ability. Voice mimicry, that would be a gold mine for tricking enemies in combat. I went out to the garden to test my new pets. First I took out Hoppy, a little hopping bird that followed me everywhere. Then Chappie. Finally, after so much effort in this hell mode, I was starting to feel like a real summoner. I asked Hoppy to start jumping from side to side. My plan was to use those erratic movements to distract any opponent in the future. Then I called Molly, a creature with an impressive digging ability. As soon as I gave the order, Molly dug a deep hole in seconds, perfect for setting traps and ambushes. I was there, lost in my fantasies as a great strategist when I took a wrong step and fell into the same hole Molly had dug. That blow brought me back to reality. I am still a kid and I can't fight anyone for real yet. It struck 3 in the afternoon and I started to get nervous. Far away I heard the voice that always puts me in a bind. It was Kreda, Cheetah's daughter, coming to play like every day. We took out our wooden swords for our daily duel. Kreda is absurdly fast and has a strength that doesn't match her age. She just ran me over without me being able to defend any of her attacks. I ended up biting the dust. Once again, I am a reincarnated expert gamer, but in this 3-year-old body, she beats me easily. My parents arrived just as we were finishing. Teresa's belly was already huge. Just as I had predicted, a little brother or sister was on the way. Ruden and mom said goodbye to Kreda and we went inside. I suggested to my father that he let me help with the harvest, since my mother shouldn't strain herself in her condition. Thanks, Alan, but no, Ruden told me with a smile. You've helped a lot in the house, but you are 3. The farm is no place for you. Though my strength is adult-like due to card buffs, I know to them I am still their little one. Teresa told me to keep playing with Kreda, and they mentioned how much we've improved at dueling. Then Dad mentioned something that intrigued me, the appraisal ceremony. He explained that at age 5, all children undergo a ritual to discover what skills they have. If someone gets a special skill, they can stop being a serf and change their fate. Ruden also asked me why I spend my time throwing stones at the tree outside. I lied, saying it was to protect us from monsters, but the truth was different. I was testing if I had any other hidden combat abilities besides summoning. The next day, while practicing summons, I could now last all day without getting tired. Kreda showed up for a duel. I lost again, as usual. Just then, Dad arrived, and Mom came out to meet him. But as bad luck would have it, the Nama I summoned jumped near her. Teresia was so scared that she tripped and fell, overwhelmed by pain. Her water broke. The baby was coming. Ruden sent Kreda to get her mother Matilda while he carried Teresia to bed. I ran to put water on to boil. Just as I announced the water was ready, Matilda arrived and kicked us men out of the room. We spent hours outside, almost falling asleep against the wall until a cry broke the silence. "It is a boy," yelled Matilda. We went in excited. My father decided to call him Mash. Teresia raised an eyebrow, asking if that wasn't also a monster's name, and my father's smile confirmed everything. Seeing my new family so happy, I wondered why I was reincarnated here. In my past life, I was just a lonely workaholic with a dull life. There is nothing I miss about that world. Here, for the first time, I feel like I belong. My only goal now is to become strong enough to get my family out of servitude. Teresa asked me to greet my brother, but as soon as I got close, Mash burst into tears. I got scared, thinking I had done something wrong, but my parents just laughed and said babies are like that. I am definitely enjoying this new life, but this is just the beginning. We'll have to see how much more I can grow. Thanks for making it to the end. Comment part 2 if you liked the video, subscribe and like to help the channel continue to grow more. 2 years have passed since then, and I was heading with Ruden to the evaluation ceremony. As he explained, this was a special event that everyone must go through at age 5, from servants to nobles. If I showed some talent, I could leave the life of servitude. Krina was my age, so she was also heading to the evaluation ceremony with her father Gerda. She was quite excited. She wanted to be named a swordswoman and thus be able to become a knight. Arriving at the commoner's village, we looked in awe at the buildings that filled the town. These were much larger and more elegant than the place where I live. We waited outside a large church for the evaluation ceremony to begin. There were several children there, also waiting with their parents. Unlike us, they all wore better clothes and also looked better groomed. Some people recognized by my dark hair and eyes that I was a servant. I found their comments quite unpleasant. Yeah, I am a servant. So what? I thought. When the doors opened, 3 reverends in white robes came out. They welcomed us by saying, "Mia, God of creation, blesses us all equally with great opportunities." They also told us that throughout history, there have been heroes who came from servitude. An example is Clasis, the saint born a commoner, and Dyberg, Lord of the Sword. He was a servant like me. Inside the church, there were statues of the three gods. The one in the middle must be Elmia, god of creation and developer of the game. When the ceremony began, the reverends let Palomas, the village chief's son, pass first. They explained he had to place his hand on a crystal sphere. After this, any talent he possessed would appear written on the metal plate behind them. Palomas shyly approached and placed his hand on the crystal ball. A faint light illuminated the sphere and his attributes were written on the metal plate. Basically, the stats that appeared in my grimoire appeared. The reverend read the plate aloud. Palomas had a talent for being a merchant. This made his father quite happy, who couldn't stop celebrating. My grimoire appeared before me with a new message. People's attributes are shown as ranks instead of numbers. Although my grimoire was in front of me, in plain sight, no one else could see it. I quite like this useful game configuration. The next child to come up also placed his hand on the crystal ball, but this time it didn't light up, nor did his stats appear. Apparently, not everyone could get a talent. One by one, the other children continued to go to the crystal ball. Some obtained the talent, while others did not have the same luck. Throughout the ceremony, the highest rank I saw was, apparently, you couldn't get higher ranks without a talent. The last ones left were Krina and I. When it was her turn, Krina didn't wait for them to finish saying her name to come to the front. Completely excited, she placed her hand on the crystal ball and it lit up much more than with any other child. This was a pretty surprising event. Gerda asked the Reverend to read her talent. Unable to hide his amazement, the Reverend said it was a miracle. Despite being a servant, Krina had obtained the talent of Sword Lord, one of the best talents that exist. She didn't seem to understand the importance of her talent, while all the adults, especially Gerda, were completely surprised and excited. Although Krina couldn't stop thinking that she had dreamed of being a swordswoman, this event did not surprise me. I already suspected it. All these years playing together, I could tell she had a supernatural strength. Finally, it was my turn. I was excited to think that my parents would finally find out I am a summoner. I placed my hand on the crystal ball and the bright light illuminated the entire room. The surprise of this blinding glow made me fall to the ground. Although I wasn't hurt, as I am quite used to taking hits from my training with Krina. As a mere servant, Ruden couldn't read, so we both excitedly asked the Reverend what the plaque said. Unfortunately, the Reverend said that I don't have any talent. This had to be a mistake. Not only was I reborn as a summoner in this game, but the sphere also produced a strong blinding light. When I checked the plaque myself, I found there was an error in the text. This event angered me a lot because of the developer. Now no one would know I am a summoner. My father calmly took me by the shoulders and we both went home. My mother and siblings welcomed us excitedly, only to receive the news that I had no talent. Despite that, no one seemed disappointed. They accepted it calmly, and my father told me I would always be his pride and joy. In this new life, we are so poor we don't have a bathtub, but I feel happy to have been reborn in this family. Before sleeping, I reflected on what I had just learned. I was the only one playing in Hell mode. Everyone at the ceremony was 5, so they must also be level 1 like me. Surely the ranks reflect how much they can grow, so if I had rank E, it meant my progress would be much slower than normal. That would make anyone despair and hate the game. But that wasn't happening to me. I was tired of easy and mediocre games. This was my chance to prove that difficult games were better. The next day we went to Krina's to celebrate her achievement. On the way, Teresa and I noticed Ruden was acting a bit strange. When we got to her house, Krina excitedly told me that Sword Lord was better than Swordsman. I already knew this, but I faked surprise anyway. Matilda showed that the village chief gave them expensive liquor as a celebration. Both Ruden and Gerda were eager to drink it, but they also seemed upset, although neither wanted to admit it. Finally, Gerda revealed the reason for her annoyance. Ruden wanted to cut ties with them. Dad then admitted he wanted to cut ties with them because Krina's talent would lead her to move up in rank. She could even become a noble, so they should stop hanging out with servants. To lighten the situation, I asked Krina to calm them down. She drew her sword, but before she could act, Matilda and Teresa stopped them with punches. The speed with which they calmed down surprised me a lot. I asked Matilda if they always fought like that. She told me that they used to fight all the time, but since they became parents, they both stopped. She also said the four were childhood friends, and when a new town was announced, they all decided to make the journey together. The houses of both families had the same design because they built them at the same time, working together. Sometime later, Gerda received the news that the Order of Knights wanted to see Krina. The four of us returned to the village for the event, but we weren't the only ones. More people also wanted to witness Krina, the Sword Lord, and the Order of Knights. Togora, a boy from the ceremony, approached me, spoke very rudely, and said that without talent I shouldn't visit the town. Krina defended me and would have bitten him if her father hadn't stopped her. When the Order of Knights arrived, everyone became very excited. Krina was the most excited to see them. 3 years have passed since we played knights, and she finally had the chance to meet real knights. As they greeted the captain, something seemed to bother Gerda. He kept saying that Krina had never touched a sword before and wouldn't stand a chance. The captain insisted that if she were a sword lord, there would be no problem. If he refused the request, they would be accused of falsifying the results of the evaluation ceremony, something that could even be punished by death. To prove that her talent was legitimate, Krina had to face the vice captain in a duel. Gerda was very worried about his daughter, but the captain threatened to kill her and the rest of her family if he didn't accept the duel. When she saw a real sword, Krina got excited and said she'd do it. In an arena facing her opponent, Krina enthusiastically introduced herself with the title of knight and challenged Lebrand. She began with a great leap and attacked with strong, accurate strikes, though Lebrand seemed to have no trouble blocking her attacks. Then, Lebrand began to counterattack, and when Krina's guard was down, he kicked her so hard that she crashed into the wall. Seeing this, we all got worried, so the guards had to subdue her so we wouldn't do anything. Krina got to her feet, a light around her body, and continued the fight. This time hitting much faster and more powerfully than before. As soon as she cut Lebrand's sword, the duel ended and Krina was named the victor. This event was celebrated by all the other villagers. The happiest person was Gerda. He even shed a tear of joy, happy that his daughter would not be executed. The captain went to Gerda and congratulated him on having a sword lord. Besides apologizing for being rude, he then invited Gerda to talk about Krina's future. He wasn't sure about going, so he allowed us to accompany him. We met in the huge house of the village leader, although I didn't understand why Togora and his father were also there. I guess they didn't want to be overshadowed by the sword lord. What interested me most was the delicious fruit in front of me, which I decided to keep in my clothes to take to my mother and brother. The captain of the knights introduced himself by the name of Zeno. He was sent to determine if there was a true sword lord. 3 years ago, a sword lord appeared in a count's family, but his skills did not correspond to those of a sword lord. They re-evaluated him and found that he was only a swordsman. That is why now they had to make sure carefully. He also announced that the village would no longer have the village chief's name, but would now be named Krina Village. A request that the village lord could not refuse as it was a direct order from the baron. When talking about Krina's future, the captain told Gerda to continue raising her as a sword lord, and when she turns 12, she will study at the academy and then serve the royal family. Togora also showed his interest in studying at the academy and becoming a knight, so the captain said that an instructor would be sent to the village to evaluate him. If he worked hard, he could also get in. When the captain noticed my dark hair and eyes, my father immediately introduced me and Gerda introduced Ruden. Upon hearing his name, the captain recognized him instantly. He was a legend in the village for his deeds. Besides, the baron is very fond of the great boar's meat. Before we said goodbye, the captain praised him as a hero for taking on the most difficult role in the Huns. Upon returning home, Ruden mentioned that Krina could become a hero. But even servants like him could be recognized for their achievements. With this, he encouraged me to move forward and show what we are worth. Although, well, I chose hell mode after all. Then I showed him the fruits I picked for my mom and Mash, and Dad showed me he did the same. He also took some fruits. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe and like to help the channel continue to grow more.